In math class when I was 12 years old, our teacher noticed his watch had stopped. It messed up the timing of our class since he didn't realize how close to the end of our hour he was. The next day, he didn't come to school and we had a replacement lesson. When he came back a few days later, it turned out his dad had died unexpectedly, exactly at the time the watch had stopped. When I was in middle school, I had a dream that I was in one of our school hallways where my cousin's dog was just sitting there. She was sort of wispy, bluish in color, and a bit transparent. The dog ran up to me. I remember I was able to give her a hug and pet her, told her she was a good dog, etc. She then ran down the hallway and I felt a bit saddened. I woke up the next morning and found out that the dog had died the prior evening. Still spooks me a bit. I met Christian Bale on Omegle. He was wearing just a pair of boxers. We had a 40-minute discussion on Dark Side of the Moon. I swear to you, this happened. No one ever actually said that they didn't believe me, but when I tell the story, I can see the skepticism in their eyes. I was on a trip to Disneyland and I was riding a roller coaster, when the thing on my shoulders, that was supposed to protect me, got loose and moved 40 to 50 centimeters, I think that's 5 feet, away from my body. With crazy reflexes I moved it close to my body again and it clicked perfectly this time. The rest of the ride was a nightmare. I almost cried when it was done. I believe it was called Space Mountain Mission 2, if anyone is interested. A man adopted as an infant married a woman who several years later turns out to be his first cousin. I've always wanted to tell this story to someone. So here it is. I once knew a guy who described two people that oddly sounded like Rick and Morty / Doc and Marty. He also said if he were to tell me what he saw when he met these two people, he would go to jail. When I was in 4th grade, I stole chocolate bars from the local food mart and went to go sell it in these sketchy apartments. I lived in downtown Toronto at this time, and when I went to knock on this one door, a black guy with a fucking ninja samurai sword came out and said, "What you want?" I pissed my pants and ran. I found a ½ ounce of cocaine and some new Nikes while I was walking home from work. A friend of mine was driving across the desert in Arizona 40 years ago on a stretch of highway that is endlessly straight and boring. It's pitch black out. He's listening to music driving for hours when he suddenly gets the feeling he needs to pull over. It's overwhelming. He does. And when he finally comes to a complete stop, he looks out in the distance and sees something in the road. He can't make it out, so he drives up to it, gets out and walks up. It's a blanket rolled up across the road. He hears crying coming from it. Pulls it open and it's a woman sobbing that she just wanted to die. She was trying to kill herself by laying in the road, but instead was saved by my buddy. He's drives her into the next town, buys her a meal, and drops her off at the police station. That is the craziest story I've ever heard in my life. What blows my mind is his feeling that he needed to pull over when he did. What are the odds? Some dude at a party said he would go into the woods and watch these people have group sex every week for 3 years after first stumbling upon them by accident. He said the group knew he was there but didn't mind. I thought it was weird and walked away. My friend used to work with radioactive materials for machines, etc. His manager started dating a new girl who got him hooked on meth. The average salary in this line of work is $100K plus, but he burnt through his money so fast he didn't show up to work one day and a $250K machine had gone missing. It was later found on eBay. The guy literally put this machine on eBay thinking nobody would find out this machine had parts in it that could have made dirty bombs, and it was on eBay. In 1996, I had just dropped out of university and was moving home to my parents' place. My tail was firmly between my legs. I had almost no money and no job prospects. Basically, I was screwed. I had an old Jeep Comanche with all my belongings in the back and 200 miles to go. I Borrowed $20 from a friend for gas and started the trip. I got to a point that was 30 miles from home and was on empty. I pulled into a gas station/rest stop and sort of cried for a minute. In my truck. I needed $5 for gas to make it the rest of the way and had nothing. There was no way I could call my dad and ask for help. He was already so disappointed. After a minute I started searching around my truck for change, anything. I opened the glove box and there were these paper loyalty bucks. For a gas station that never used. It turns out it was the exact gas station that I was stopped at. $4.70 worth of bucks. I found another $2 in change, put $6 in the gas tank and bought a Coke. I made it home. Fast forward 20 years, I had sorted my crap out. And am a lawyer. That gas station hired me as their outside counsel. I got to tell this story to the president of the company. Growing up in my hometown there wasn't much for teenagers to do, so naturally my friends and I got most of our kicks from drugs and partying. One night my buddy and I had bought 1/8 of mushrooms and decided we were gonna eat them and walk from my end of town to his girlfriend's house, which was about a 3-hour walk. We had nothing better to do that night and thought, fuck it, at least we'll have some fun tripping out. We ate the shrooms after we got something to drink at Sonic and decided to order 2 cheeseburgers to carry with us in case we got the munchies later. So we started our adventure slowly, taking our time walking around town, and ended up in this small park. It's around 10 p.m. or so and we decide to stop and smoke a few bowls since we were starting to feel the shrooms kick in. By the time we finished our second bowl we were definitely well under the effects of everything and having a good time. This is where things started to get weird. We were sitting there laughing when this black dog walks up out of fucking nowhere and sits down next to us. Naturally we pet it and it's super friendly with us, so we decide that we should give him our cheeseburgers because he seems so cool. We unwrap the food and give it to him and he's ecstatic about it at this point. Once he finishes the burgers he slowly starts to walk away and my buddy suggests that we should just follow the dog and see where it takes us. Being under the influence like I was, this seemed like an awesome idea and we begin following this dog around, completely forgetting his girlfriend was waiting for us to come over. After about 4 to 5 hours of following this dog around with the occasional stops to stare at the patterns on the sidewalk or just lay down in the grass, we end up on the side of town known as 7th Street. This is the neighborhood which my buddy's girlfriend lived in, and I had this realization that maybe the dog was leading us to his girlfriend. Naturally I laughed at the thought and brushed it off as being too crazy, even for my high ass. No shit, 15 minutes later this dog runs up a driveway in this neighborhood and I hear a girl say, "What the fuck? Where did you come from?" I instantly recognize the voice and yell, "Marissa." Sure as shit, my buddy's girl comes walking down her driveway with this dog. She had been outside smoking and the dog had ran straight up to her. This fucking dog led us all the way across town straight to Marissa's house like it was our canine guide or something. My buddy asked if she knew the dog or if it was a neighbor's and she said that she had never seen it before. To this day it still blows my mind that this even happened. After that we went to another buddy's house and left the dog at her house, but it was gone when she came home the next day. I still wonder what happened to that dog from time to time. Anytime I tell people this story they say I was just high on shrooms and that I imagined, but I know how to handle my trips and that dog was real. Definitely one of the weirder things to happen to my buddy and I during our drug days. 8 mushrooms, met a mystical guide dog. Like and subscribe for more Reddit stories like this. Drop an interesting comment to feature in my next post.